Two of my favorite fighters in the UFC are fighting this weekend. My favorite middleweight, Gerald Meerschaert, and my favorite featherweight, Darren Elkins. I'm going to talk about Meerschaert versus Jotko right here in this video. I'm becoming more worried for Gerald as the fights go on, even though he's looked great as of late. Just watching his chin fail him against Chimaev and Ian Heinisch kind of sucked these last few years, and it's got me concerned, but not so much in this fight. I think Jotko, even though I consider him the better striker, Jotko, he doesn't have the power to exploit that potential hole in Meerschaert's game or chin. And Meerschaert, he's deceptively good on the feet. He's a guy that doesn't mind being on the ground, and maybe that frees him up on the feet or whatever, because he's, and also his opponents are thinking he's probably looking to take it to the ground. He's a very versatile fighter, but his expertise is the ground game. And in particular, he's a great submission artist, where, there are a lot of great grapplers, superior grapplers, who aren't as good of a submission artist as Meerschaert is. Meerschaert he's like one of those guys like way back when Jason McDonald, back in the late 2000s, he was in the UFC. He's like that guy, where he can submit anybody. And I mean anybody. Although he'd probably have to hurt some guys first, But anyway, Jotko is a versatile fighter. He's only been tapped once in the UFC, and it was to his debut, I think. In his debut to Magnus Siedenblog, whatever. You can tell I know. I've read the name before. I just don't know how to pronounce it. And I saw the fight. I think it was a guillotine at the end of the second round, very end of the second round. And I believe he was exhausted, caught in a guillotine, and tapped. This is 9 years later, or whatever, 7 years later. And he's looked good, hasn't looked vulnerable at all, submission-wise. But if there's anybody who could exploit that, it's Gerald Meerschaert. Where Jotko has looked vulnerable, more broadly and generally, is cardio-wise. I felt like he's dropped the third round in his last 4 fights. The Misha Serkinov, Eric Anders, Marc-Andre Barrio, and Sean Strickland, of course. And that's a guy that could be a potential problem going up against a guy like Meerschaert, because Meerschaert is, in particular, a comeback submission artist. That's what he is. He's a guy who's got that tenacity where he'll get that comeback. He'll have that strong performance in round 3, and he's as dangerous as anybody on an exhausted fighter. I could absolutely see him putting away an exhausted fighter, Jotko's level or even above. And while I'm not married to that as a prediction, I absolutely love it as a bet. So I will be betting on Meerschaert to win in round 3 via submission. I haven't seen the odds yet. I've seen round 3 being plus 1,600. You can expect that to go a little higher with submission, but not that much higher. But anyway, that's what I see from Gerald Meerschaert. I see an opportunistic fighter who won't go away and can absolutely put anybody away in round 3, especially somebody who's weak in round 3, which Jotko is. The play here, though, the smart play is Jotko via decision. Jotko via decision just makes the most sense to me. He's shown a great amount of durability and versatility, mostly in his defense. And Gerald Meerschaert, I see having a hard time ripping Jotko to the floor. He's going to have a hard time getting it there. And, in the first 2 rounds anyway. I don't know, round 3 when Jotko's more tired, who knows how this fight's going to look. That's what I'm really excited to see. But generally speaking, I expect Jotko to out-joust Gerald Meerschaert and win on points. I just hope there's a finish. And even if he's winning on points, I hope Gerald Meerschaert gets that comeback finish. That's just me as a big fan of Meerschaert. And I'm happy to see him roll, and he's had some huge wins just last year, incredible wins. He's looked awesome, especially since that shitty Chimaev performance, 17-second knockout loss, which, in one way or another might have made him more popular. And I know Chimaev fans were happy to see him have a big year last year. So I'm hoping he keeps the ball rolling here. A win over Jotko would be huge. It's ironic because it probably wouldn't be huge in retrospect, because people would say, oh, he lost to Gerald Meerschaert. But Meerschaert is a very good fighter. His losses don't reflect his talent. So rooting for Gerald. We'll see what happens. Kind of predicting Jotko via decision. But see what happens.